Good morning, artists, bookworms, and educators. Welcome back to my channel. I am Beautiful Becca, and in today's video, I'm going to be going over the 2023 PopSugar Reading Challenge. As you can see, there are the 52 book tasks, which they do every year, which equals to basically 52 weeks, one book per week, which equals 52 book tasks. There's usually about 40 normal book tasks down here, followed by the advanced right below. And I have tried to complete these book tasks since I started teaching in 2016. I have never been able to finish it. Last year, I managed to reach and read 23 full book tasks. But this year, I'm determined to finish the entire thing by reading one book per week. So I suggest if you want to see which book titles follow each book task, grab a notepad, pen or a pencil or a quill, and get ready to write down with me. All right, so I'm going to be going over each book between my own collection and the library books that I have borrowed so far for the Reading Challenge of 2023. So let's start with the first one. A book you meant to read in 2022. So I am still technically in the middle of reading this great book by Alex Haro. It's called The 10,000 Books of January. Last year, I did manage to read one of her second book, which was The Once and Future Witches. This story in particular seems to have, it seems to be reminiscent of Erin Morgenstern's The Starless Sea, where this young girl happens to walk through doors, different portals, which leads her into different lands, ghosts from the past, and so forth. So I have yet to read the rest of this. I bought this off of Amazon. I will also have a link down below for any of the books that you wish to read that are listed on this video. So moving on to the next one. A book you bought from an independent bookstore. So the bookstore that I went to last year was Vroman's Bookstore in Pasadena. Vroman's is almost like a bookstore historic landmark. There is no chain of Vroman's bookstores, unlike Barnes & Noble. And the book that I chose for that one, I bought at least, I want to say maybe 3 to 4 books that day from Vroman's, including 2 that are on this list today. And one of them is The Gilded Page, The Secret Lives of the Medieval Manuscripts. I am obsessed with medieval manuscripts, medieval illuminations, and I'm also working on a secret project that has to do with the Middle Ages and, well, the medieval times. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but I have yet to take a gander into this one here, so we will see how that one goes. Moving on to the next one. We have a book by a first-time author. New authors are coming out with debut novels every year, but this one stood out the most to me. This is called The Mountains Sing, and I wish I could pronounce the author's name, but I can't. So I'm going to be taking a gander at this one. The one after that is a book with mythical creatures. You can practically find these books about mythical creatures just about everywhere, from Homer's the Odyssey, the Iliad. But the one I chose because I am working on this medieval project, I have a book here which is called Myths of the Middle Ages. Everything from creatures to mountains, the Knight of the Swan, the Sangreal, the Swan, the Swan Maidens. So this is going to be chosen. This is the book I chose for that particular book task. A book about a forbidden romance. Romeo and Juliet is right up there, but I'm trying to actually read books that I haven't read yet. So a book that I do have on the list, which I do not have a physical copy of right now, I believe it's in an ebook from the library. It's called Dark Notes. The other one that can go with that particular book task is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This book is a library request. What's the word I'm looking for here? All the time. It's like once you get this book, you need to read it right away, because it is a demanding request from readers everywhere. Unless you buy the book for yourself, otherwise this book is going to be flying off the library shelves. So make sure to get this book here. This one can also go with a book about or set in Hollywood. So I'm going to use this book for that particular task. The one I couldn't find, which I didn't realize this is the actual author, called The Painted Garden. This was written by Noel Streatfeild. If anyone ever watched You've Got Mail with Meg Ryan and Tom Hanks, Noel Streatfeild is mentioned in the scene where, what was Meg's character? Kelly something. Kelly, I forgot the character's name right now, but it's where she goes to Fox Books after her bookstore has gone bankrupt. They're closing after 42 years, and she's in Fox Books with Tom Hanks looking on to see what she's doing there, and someone is asking for a book about the ballet shoes or the something shoes, and she just happens to say Noel Streatfeild. I thought she kept saying Noel Stripfield, but it's not. It's Streatfeild. I cannot find a copy of that, but The Painted Garden apparently is based on a young girl from the country who goes on a summer holiday to Hollywood. So I'll see if there's a copy of that, but for right now, I'm going to choose The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo for that particular book task. Oh, a book with girl in the title. And the one I chose, please tell me it's here. I don't see it. Where are you? It might be in this basket. Yes. This one here is, I didn't realize it was, oh my gosh, this is so heavy. I did not realize that this was part of a trilogy. I read the first one called The Bear and the Nightingale. The author's name is Catherine Arden. The second of the trilogy is called The Girl in the Tower. In the Tower. This is kind of like a modern retelling of Beauty and the Beast. And the first one is about the young girl whose village is, I can't even think of the word right now, destroyed, galvanized, attacked by these forces from this other great force from a beast in a castle. And by the end of the book, she goes to the castle. I'm not going to give the whole thing away, but this is the next one in the series, so I am looking forward to this. I actually bought this and the final novel when I went to the Barnes & Noble 2-story building at the Irvine Center, at the Spectrum Center in Irvine, California. The next one, a book with a color in the title. If you need to ask, the one that always comes up is The Color Purple. I have been meaning to read this book for years. I haven't gotten to it yet. Another title I have here is a book by Tracy Chevalier. She's the one who wrote The Girl with the Pearl Earring and The Lady and the Unicorn. This one is called The Virgin Blue. That could also be another possibility. The other book I have is a library book, which is not really part of the book task. I wasn't planning on it, but it's by the author of White Oleander, and it's called Painted Black. So that would be the, that would actually apply to that particular book task. A celebrity memoir. Well, I consider her a celebrity because she has been on television, and I love watching anything to do with people who have ESP or mediums. And what better medium than Teresa Caputo, who is who was known as the Long Island medium. I have her book here called There's More to Life Than This. So that applies to that book task there. Let's see. A romance with a fat lead. I believe it's all the way at the bottom. This one is called Get a Life, Chloe Brown. I just happened to see what this one was about. But as you can see on the cover, it is a romance with a fat lead. I wish they would change the terminology on that. But it basically, the blurb is love wasn't on her to-do list. Ooh, so I think she's going to find love in this novel that she never expected. So we'll see. A book published in 2023. This one isn't available yet, but I am a huge fan of Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. And this might be a follow-up to that particular story. It's called The Book That Wouldn't Burn. Ooh, interesting title. It already got the chills up my spine. actually, no, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Which is the one that I chose? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. A book with a color in the title. I chose The Virgin Blue. A book published the year you were born. So I was born in 1982. I'm an 80s gal. And that's the year The Color Purple was published. So that's what I'm going to choose. A modern retelling of a classic. You type this up, like if you were to take Pride and Prejudice, you could see there's a title of Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. I want to say that's the name of the book. But the one I chose, which it might be an ebook from the library, so I'm going to wait to read the ebooks until much, much later. But there's a modern retelling of Charles Dickens' David Copperfield, and this one is entitled, very interestingly, Demon Copperhead. It sounds like a mix of Gothic and steampunk put together. That'll be really interesting. So a book with a song lyric in its title. If you actually just type it in the search engine, sorry. So the first one that came up was All the Single Ladies, All the Single Ladies. Well, guess what, gals? All the single ladies right here. Unmarried Women and the Rise of an Independent Nation. Oh boy, if there was ever a time when women needed empowerment, it's now. And and as you can see, what better title than a single lady than Lady Liberty herself? Why not? Another one that came up, and I don't remember seeing a song lyric with this before, but it's called The Secret Chord. And I actually have this one listed on Amazon. It's by Geraldine Brooks. But the reason I loved this one so much is because, look what's on the cover. It's got a harp. And I have yet to play my harp, people. So, but I've yet to see what song has a lyric called The Secret Chord. I don't think there is one, but maybe I'm a complete newbie to that, so I'll need to look that up myself. But these are the two that would apply to that book task. Sorry. A book where the main character's name is in the title. This was a book I was meaning to read last year, but I didn't get to. And I chose The Magic Strings of Frankie Presto. And if the author sounds... Oh boy, sorry, the price tag is still on this. But it's by author Mitch Albom. I love anything written by Mitch Albom. And this almost sounds like Kubo and the Two Strings, but I think the story is completely different. But Frankie Presto is the main character, and it says here, the voice of music. So music is the narrator in this case. The tale of its most beloved disciple, Frankie Presto, a Spanish war orphan raised by a blind music teacher. At 9 years old, Frankie is sent to America in the bottom of a boat. His only possession is an old guitar and 6 magical strings. Anything with music, you got me hooked on this. So I love Mitch Albom. I have read Tuesdays with Morrie, The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, and I can't think of the last one that I read by him, but this is the book I chose for that book task. A book that fulfills your favorite prompt from a past challenge, and I don't remember the name of this particular book task, but I have read this book so many times. It's my absolute #1 favorite, and it's by the author simply known as Avi, and it's called A Beginning, a Middle, and an End. And it's called The Right Way to Write Writing. And you basically have Snail and Ant who are just trying to write something, to write a story about their day. And it's so witty. But for anyone who wanted to start writing, you might want to take a look at this one. The next one is a bit, I don't want to say the book task is touchy, but the subject is a book that's been banned or challenged in any state as of 2022. I cannot believe it. People have been raving about this book. My mother raved about it. The Kite Runner. Are they kidding me? So let me just go get this book here. Oh, sorry, there's so many books. This is why I am a book lover. I can never have enough books. So yes, we have The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. This is a book that is on the banned list. It's hard to believe. Okay, a book with a love triangle. If the title doesn't speak to you, the front cover will. It sort of goes back to Alistair Deacon in As Time Goes By series, where he would say, pick me up and buy me. That's what the book has to say. And this one certainly took me by surprise called Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Sue Lin Tan. Look at that cover, people. Hello. Isn't it gorgeous? So, a book about a love triangle. I have yet to be surprised. So, let's see. I went over those ones. Yes. Oh my gosh. A book becoming a TV series or movie in 2023. I literally just read this one. I don't have a copy of it. I had to return it. Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. Talk about women empowerment. This has to do with this female chemist between the 50s and 60s. And her name is Elizabeth Zott. And she is a no-nonsense chemist who's basically telling social norms and men where they can go. And she manages to teach chemistry by a twist of fortune. She actually teaches chemistry to the masses, specifically women, through a cooking show called Supper at 6. And another task where this book, Lessons in Chemistry, can apply is, I literally just saw it. It's part of the advanced book. It's part of the advanced book prompt. A book with a pet character. A pet character in Lessons in Chemistry. What a delightful pet character that she has. Elizabeth Zott is the chemist, and she really has no time for love in her life, but she manages to capture the heart of this man named Calvin Evans. A lot of the character names in the story have to do with the periodic table, scientific terms, and time. And in this case, a dog, which we learn about a little bit later after he follows her home one night after being left on the streets for 2 weeks. He was formerly a Camp Pendleton canine bomb-sniffing dog, and he's extremely intelligent. But Calvin, who's waiting for her at home, she's on her way through the door, and the dog is following her. So he says, so then he calls out, "Hey, what's that you got there?" And she turns around, looks at her wrist, and she says, "It's 6:30. And that becomes the name of the dog. What a delightful way to name a dog. But I can't really imagine anyone calling out, 6:30, get over here. I don't know. But it's such a delightful, it's a really unique read for this author. And I'm looking forward to the actress who can perform Elizabeth Zott with such gusto. I am looking forward to that. We got a couple of library books for these next couple of book prompts. A book set in the decade you were born. So as an 80s gal, this one has been pretty popular. It's when they put these silver stickers on here, you can't really see it. It's not a Newbery. What is this called? What is it? Michael. This is so hard to read. Michael Prinz Award for Excellence in Young Adult Literature. I guess that's what it's called. It's a Prinz Honor novel, I believe. And it's by Rainbow. I love this author's name, Rainbow Rowell. I'm not sure if that's her real name or if it's a pen name, but I love it. And this is called Eleanor and Park. So this is set in the 80s, and it's about their year-long relationship in high school during the 80s. The next one that follows is a book with a queer lead. I did not know this particular book had it, but it's called The House in the Cerulean Sea. This is a book that actually one of my favorite YouTubers, Darling Desi, thank you Desi for pointing this out. This one looks really cool to read, and it's by author TJ Klune. So I'm going to take a gander on this one. Moving on to the next task, a book with a map. Now, it doesn't necessarily say the map has to be on the cover or if the map can be inside the book, but this one has a map on the cover and it's called Stowaway. This is actually part of a whole collection of books I'm reading for another another story that I am working on at the moment, and it's by Karen Hesse. She's the one who wrote Out of the Dust, which is a novel about surviving the Dust Bowl. And so I've yet to look forward on this one. But the reason I chose this one is because it has to do with ships. Yay. The next one that follows is a book with a rabbit on the cover. And the classic one that always comes up is Richard Adams' Watership Down. He's also the one who wrote about Robert E. Lee and his horse, Traveler, which the book is lovingly called Traveler, and it's through the horse's perspective. But this one has to do specifically with rabbits and their will to survive. Another book I would highly recommend, and I'm not sure, do I have that one in here somewhere? No, I don't. It's a book I already read, but the story is so wonderful, and it's Kate DiCamillo's The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulane. Think the Velveteen Rabbit, but as a porcelain rabbit meets Collodi's The Adventures of Pinocchio, and the story is so heartfelt, but it's also, it pulls at your heartstrings with this little rabbit goes through just to get back to his owner. The adventures and the trials that he goes through is so, it's just heart-wrenching. It's a children's book, but it's by far one of the best books that I read. And if I'm not mistaken, before the pandemic, there was a production of Edward Tulane that was supposed to take place on the West End, but I'm not exactly sure what happened with that production. So I will do some research and I will let you guys know in a future video from that. It's extremely hard to find a book with just text on the cover. It's almost nearly impossible, but that's the prompt. A book with just text on the cover. I have so many books that not even, like, half of them don't even have text on the cover. It's just on the spine. But I happened to find one, and it's this one. Stephen Sondheim's Finishing the Hat. How you have to finish the hat. Leave a little space in the way, like the window. You have to finish the hat. Who is not in love with Stephen Sondheim, I ask you? So this is collected lyrics with attendant comments, principles, heresies, grudges, whines, and anecdotes. So there's another one that actually follows up with this one, and I happened to see it at Romans, believe it or not. And it's called Look, I Made a Hat. Again, with just text on the cover. If you are a lover of Stephen Sondheim, check this one out. If you love Sweeney Todd, if you love A Little Night Music, Into the Woods, Company, and Sunday in the Park with George, if anyone has watched Tick, Tick, Boom with the incomparable and amazing Andrew Garfield as Jonathan Larson, Sondheim's last legacy, believe it or not, which I didn't realize that was him. The actor Bradley Whitford, who played Sondheim in Tick, Tick, Boom. There's that scene towards the end where Jonathan is sitting on the floor of his apartment, and the camera pans to the phone machine, and it picks up a voice message. That was not Bradley Whitford's voice. That was actually Stephen Sondheim. So apparently what happened was Miranda, the director of Tick, Tick, Boom, and of course Hamilton and In the Heights, he apparently showed the film. He showed some clips to Stephen Sondheim himself for some feedback. And Sondheim said, yeah, the voicemail is okay, but that's not what I would have said. Would you mind if I recorded my voice for that voicemail, because this is how I would have said it. So the very last thing that Sondheim left for this world, talk about mentorship, was leaving that voicemail for Jonathan Larson, played by Andrew Garfield. And who knew that we would lose him in November? That was a shocker. He had many more musicals to write, but that was his legacy. So check out Tick, Tick, Boom. And might want to take a gander at this. Finishing the Hat.